In a world where trust is shattered and love is tested, one channel dares to uncover the untold stories of heartbreak and betrayal. Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles, where real-life tales of infidelity are unraveled, secrets exposed, and lives forever changed. Join us as we navigate the complex world of relationships, offering support, understanding, and a place for those who've faced the pain of betrayal. Subscribe to Heartbreak Chronicles now, because every story deserves to be told, and every heartbreak deserves to be heard. Story 1. So, I found out about 5 months ago that my wife was having an emotional affair. I was not able to get evidence of anything physical, nor will she admit to that. However, this is not her first affair, and the others have been sexual. To me, for the last 15 years, I have been the only one to stay loyal and faithful. So here recently, like the last few weeks, I have been talking to someone who understands what I am going through, because she has been through the same thing. It started as just needing someone to talk to so that I didn't go insane. We talk all the time now. A few days ago, she floated the idea that maybe I should give my wife a taste of her own medicine, that I should have some fun for once and see how she likes being cheated on. Now that she has said this, all the signs have clicked into place. All of the offhand comments she has made to me make sense now, and I believe that she wants to be the one that I get revenge on my wife with. Now I am forced to admit that I find the idea intriguing. I have thought about it all the time over the last few days. I find myself thinking about what it would be like to make love to her and then tell my wife. I have even fantasized about recording it and letting my wife see it without her retaining a copy of the video to replay later. In court, I am not that stupid. This line of thought both excites me and frightens me. I find myself being drawn closer to the idea, yet my conscience keeps telling me that it is not right. That no matter what she has done, I cannot let myself stoop to that level and dishonor myself that way. That I should never want to inflict that kind of pain on my wife, even though she has done it to me on multiple occasions. My wife says that she wants to fix things and change her ways. To her credit, she genuinely seems to regret what she has done, but she also showed regret after the first 2 affairs in our marriage. I also continue to find things that she lied to me about or hid from me, albeit they were all things from before I discovered the affair, nothing since then. Should I cut loose for once in my life and do what feels good, or should I stay the course and not give in to this desire? Do I give her a taste of her own medicine, or do I keep to the high ground? BTW. This is not a should I leave or should I stay post. I am weighing my options and discussing things with my wife. She is well aware that I have not decided whether or not I will stay with her. This is a moral question of an eye for an eye vs. turn the other cheek. Update. So, I did withhold a piece of information on this story because I wanted to get most people's honest responses about the situation without taking into account this one sensational piece of info. So, the woman that I have been talking to, who is encouraging me to have the revenge affair and hinting that she wants to be that partner, doesn't know who my wife is or who my wife's app is. The truth is that this woman is the mother of my wife's app. Her son is the one that was having an affair with my wife. So when I say a revenge affair, it is against not just my wife, but against her app as well. Yes, I sought her out to befriend her so that I could eventually reveal to her that her son was the boss that helped my wife do this. No, I had no intentions of developing anything more than a friendship. Yes, the revenge affair as well as the hints to it being her has been entirely her idea. She sent me nudes, and I have to say that I know why my wife's app's dad died. He effed himself to death being married to her. Thoughts on this new piece of info? Update #2. I didn't go through with it. I talked to the other person and explained my concerns. I told her that I really wasn't built that way to stoop to violating my own principles. I guess she didn't like that. She ghosted me and hasn't answered any more of my texts for the last 4 days. Suffice it to say that avenue is closed. I didn't reveal that her son was my wife's app. I just didn't want to ruin her image of her son. It isn't her fault that her son is a piece of shit homewrecker. She already has to deal with him being a criminal and a druggie. Why pile on? As for my wife, it has been since the beginning of August that I gave her a list of things to do before I would even consider reconciliation. I gave her a deadline of Jan 1st to complete the list. As of yet, there are 2 items left. They are the biggest items on the list. I am not confident that she can make the deadline. I have told her that the deadline will not be moved. She either does what I have asked by the 1st of the year, or I will not be willing to even try to reconcile. She has a week and a half. I will do her the courtesy of allowing her to have the full amount of time until the deadline passes. After that, she will have shown me that she can change and do right by finishing the list, or we will be getting divorced. I set the deadline for the 1st of the year as I am not heartless and don't want this to blow up during the holidays. Story 2. Finding out the truth about my wife. We spent 2 years together in college and got married the fall after we graduated. Spent 2 years exploring our relationship and finally got settled down and was ready to raise a family. She got off birth control and her libido took off, but it took 3 years for us to get pregnant, but we got a beautiful girl finally. After a couple of months, my wife got back on birth control and had a hard time with it. Her doctors switched her meds several times, but she had bad side effects with each one. We talked about it and were unsure if we wanted another child, and since it was easier for me to get a vasectomy reversed later, if we decided to have more children, I had the operation. That was 3 years ago, and after coming off birth control, my wife has felt better and sex has been worry-free since we can no longer get pregnant. We actually have sex more now than when we were in college. Then 3 weeks ago, my wife was late for her period, which isn't that unusual for her. Then I noticed her breasts were a little tender, and she started what seemed like signs of morning sickness. Now I know there have been cases of nature reversing vasectomies, so I went to the doctor and had my sperm count checked, and the verdict was I'm still sterile, but I didn't tell my wife. My wife finally went to her doctor and confirmed she was pregnant, and so she had me go to my doctor to get tested. I didn't go right away because I was literally sick from the stress of the situation. I had all sorts of sick scenarios going through my head. In the end, I got retested, and I took my daughter in and had a DNA test done. I got both test results back today and got violently ill after reading them. Yes, I'm sterile, and no, my daughter isn't mine. When my wife got home, I showed her my test, and she denied any wrongdoing and saying that there was a problem with the test, and I showed her the test from last week, and she broke down crying. I finally got it out of her who she had slept with, and that it only happened once and the condom must have failed. I made her tell me the story 3 times, and each time I asked her if that was the whole truth, and if there was anything else that she needed to tell me because another lie would mean we were through. She said that was the only time, and she had never done anything like that before. I told her how much this hurt me and asked her how she could do this to our family and if it was worth it. I asked her if she wanted a divorce, and she pleaded with me to forgive her and put this behind us. I said I couldn't raise someone else's child and asked her if she would be willing to terminate the pregnancy in order to stay together. She cried the rest of the night, but when we went to bed she said she would do whatever it took to save our marriage. I never brought up the DNA test. I will contact a lawyer next week to see what my options are about if I have to pay child support on our first child. If she had come clean about the father of our first child, I could have swallowed my pride and tried to work to forgive her, but she thought she was in the clear and didn't need to confess to anything else. No telling what I'll never know. Lawyer update. My lawyer is awesome. She had me bring in a bunch of paperwork, bank statements, and my medical and DNA results, and had me tell her my story. Her assistant sat in with us and took notes while my lawyer went through my documents. After I finished, she asked a few questions and spelled out my options. I live in an at-fault state, which is good and bad. Good as in it gives us leverage, bad as it takes longer and much more expensive. In the case of the first child, if my wife agrees to sign the papers, my liability for child support is an easy fix. If she doesn't agree, then a court-ordered DNA test and a judgment from the court can remove me without my wife's consent. Either way, I will most likely not have to pay child support. One way is just more expensive than the other. Since my wife has a good job and earns close to what I do, she didn't think the judge would award her any alimony, and all of that plus dividing up property and other things can be negotiated before a judge gets involved. The bad news was due to the holidays. They couldn't have the papers ready before Christmas, but definitely would before the end of the year. She advised me to say nothing until she got served. She gave me a list of things to do before and after Christmas before they served my wife. One thing they did point out was since we were actively trying to have a baby, there was a possibility that my wife didn't know that the child wasn't mine. My wife has an appointment with her OB tomorrow. Update. So I met my sister at my house, and we started moving my stuff to her house, while the divorce goes through, or at least until my STBXW leaves, and I get possession of the house. We took 4 carloads to her house and came back for the rest. My sister felt it important for her to be there for support and as a witness. I also moved the nanny cam into the living room so it could record everything in the cloud. At about 10:45 a.m., I got a text from the lawyer saying she had been served. I sent her an email saying that I am at the house when she is ready to talk. A couple of minutes later, I got a text from my wife saying, "Why? Blah blah blah." So I resent the first text and waited for her to get home. She sent several texts and voicemails. They didn't mention anything about cheating, just how she thought we were working this out, and she thought we would sit down and have a conversation before proceeding with a divorce. Playing the family card and how this will devastate the child and our families. How she feels betrayed, that was a good one. She was still sharing her location, and it took her 20 minutes before she left work. She then stopped at a nearby Walgreens for a few minutes. The purpose of the stop at Walgreens became clear as a police car pulled in behind her in the driveway. According to the officers, she got the police there because she said she was afraid and that we had guns in the house. I showed the officers my empty gun safe and said that I had removed them to another secure location. We went back to the living room and I showed my wife the paternity test that I had done that showed her daughter was not mine. Her response was denial and disbelief, which appeared genuine. She broke down and cried for about 10 minutes. I told her this was the final straw and why I wanted the divorce. At about that time, the police officers reminded me to keep it civil and made their exit after I told them I was leaving soon to stay at my sister's house. When I asked who the child's father was, she claimed she didn't know. I asked if there were that many guys she was sleeping with, or did she just not know his name. I asked how many times she had cheated on me between pregnancies, to which she said it was just the 2 of them. I told her that I had said earlier if she didn't tell the whole truth that I was done. I reminded her. I also told her that I wouldn't raise someone else's child, and that she had better figure out who the real father was because I wasn't paying child support for someone else's baby. She wanted to know what we were going to tell our daughter, and I said that was up to her because this was her mess, and I wasn't taking the blame or cleaning it up for her. I drafted a couple of emails last week, one for our friends and family with copies of all the test results and reasons why I was asking for a divorce. The other for my wife with copies of the same tests along with what I knew and things that I had told her previously. I had to run it through my lawyer and make a couple of edits before she signed off on it. I sent copies to all our friends and relatives when she pulled into the driveway this afternoon. Most of the feedback has been one-sided and very colorful. In the end, I told her if she had been truthful, we might have been able to work things out. But I couldn't trust a lying serial cheater, and I told her if she had gotten her tubes tied, instead of me getting a vasectomy, she might have got away with it. I told her she needed to get a lawyer so we could move forward and start to heal. Story 3. My girlfriend of 5 years cheated on me with a client she was caring for. For context, this happened nearly 6 years ago, and I'm just now ready to start talking about it and working through some emotions that I've buried pretty deeply since it happened. I caught my ex-girlfriend and the mother of my daughter cheating on me with a PSW client she was caring for. My girlfriend and I were great together. As a matter of fact, we were so good together that I literally never worried about anything. If something ever came up in either of our lives, we were always there for each other to work our way through it together as a team. We had an amazing relationship. We both had good jobs, we had a great blended family, and I truly never saw this coming. Something my girlfriend liked to do, when her clients would be hospitalized with various different afflictions, was visit them in the hospital and bring them fresh baked goodies. I loved this practice and thought it was a really amazingly kind gesture that she was doing. I wholeheartedly encouraged her, whenever possible, to visit and to try to make her clients' days a little bit brighter as they struggled with their health. They were often without local friends and family, and she was very kind, compassionate, and caring, and genuinely wanted to see them smile. Her work called these visits compassionate care visits, and would pay her for an hour of time to visit. It wasn't unusual for the visits to be 2 or 3 hours, but she'd only be paid for one. One evening, she told me she was going to visit a client in the hospital after dinner. She said there had been some budget concerns at work, and they couldn't pay her, so she wasn't going to mention it to them, but attend anyway. I supported this because the money didn't matter. What mattered was she was bringing a bit of joy to people in their moment of need. It was unusual for her to go on a Sunday in the evening, but I really didn't think anything of it. There was something on TV that I wanted to watch that night, and I figured I'd watch it while she was gone, and then we could cuddle in bed when she got home. That's not exactly what happened. She left around 7 p.m. that night. By 10 p.m., I hadn't heard from her, not unusual, and I was getting tired, so I sent her a text telling her I was heading to bed and I'd see her when she got home. Around 1 a.m., I woke up because I had to pee, and I noticed she wasn't in bed. I checked downstairs to see if she was sleeping on the couch so as not to wake me, the kids' rooms, the basement, etc., etc., nowhere to be found. So I called her because I was concerned that maybe she was in a car accident or something had happened. No answer to that call, so I began to get a little panicked. About 10 minutes later, she called back, and she was annoyed with me. "Why are you calling to check up on me?" I tried to explain I was just worried because it was really late at night, I hadn't heard from her, and it was a school night, and we both had to work in the morning, so I thought it was really unusual she was out so late, and I was just concerned. She didn't want to hear anything of it, and told me she'd be home when she got home. Very strange. She arrived home about 30 minutes later, and she was angry that I didn't trust her. I tried to explain that wasn't what my call was about, it really wasn't, and that I was just concerned for her safety. She tried arguing with me some more, and I said I really didn't want to argue about it, but it was clear she was angry, so I said I was going to go to my mom's for the night until she calmed down and we could talk about things more rationally. I got in my car, and I drove about halfway to my mom's. She lived 45 minutes away at that time before I realized that I really didn't want to wake my mom up in the middle of the night because we were having what I felt like was a really silly disagreement. I thought I'll just go home, sleep on the couch, and we can talk about this in the morning. So I turned my car around and headed back home. When I got home, I could hear her upstairs talking on the phone, but I couldn't understand what was being said. And then this small little voice in my head popped up and said, "Something is wrong, you need to check her Facebook messages." I have never done this before. I had absolutely no reason to ever look. But this situation was just getting stranger and stranger, and I had developed this gut feeling that something was really wrong. I was not prepared at all for what I was about to find. I found messages between her and the client she had gone to visit. A 60-year-old quadriplegic man 31 years older than her. Everything from plans to leave me and be with him. Take our kids. I had a son from a previous relationship. She had a son from a previous relationship. And we had a daughter together, and of course the "I love yous" and the "I can't wait to be with you forevers," and so on. So I took the laptop upstairs to confront her about the messages. She claimed ignorance and said that she never wrote the messages, which of course wasn't true. It wasn't long after that she scooped up the kids. At this point, it was about 3:30 a.m. She left the house without telling me where she was going. The fallout from this was massive. I was, and sometimes still am, completely devastated by my life being turned completely upside down. We never fought about anything ever, and then all of a sudden this. She filed for full custody of our daughter, with a 32-page document full of lies I eventually had her admit to in a recorded telephone call. We lost our house, my car was repossessed, I was fired from my job for taking too much time off, and the complete devastation I lived in is extremely difficult to put into words. Early on, I checked myself into the hospital because I hadn't eaten anything for 6 days and only had a few sips of water. I couldn't hold anything down. The hospital was very helpful and set me up with a social worker to help work through what was going on. That eventually led to antidepressants, anxiety medication, and a therapist I still speak to on a monthly basis. I've never been given any answers to why she did what she did. She stayed with the man for 2 years and is now in another relationship after cheating on her client. They're set to be married in 9 months. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. I'm in a long-term relationship again, but only recently have I really started feeling like myself and feeling like a true partner again. For a long time, my current partner spent a lot of time working on my self-esteem, anxiety, and depression, and trying to help me feel valuable again. She's absolutely incredible, and honestly, in a way, I'm glad this happened, because I've managed to find what a true partner really should be like. But I would never wish something like this, even on my very worst enemy. Well, that's not totally true. I'd wish it on my ex-partner, but that's it. I stumbled across this subreddit due to a recommended post Google thought I might be interested in and thought I might share my story. These past 6 years have been extremely difficult, but ultimately rewarding. I now know a lot more about myself. I have an amazing partner, great kids, and an amazing job. I'm still in a lot of debt due to the dissolution of my prior relationship and most things being on my credit as opposed to hers, but that was a valuable lesson I apparently needed to learn as well. TLDR, my girlfriend of 6 years cheated on me with a 60-year-old quadriplegic man she was caring for, and I lost everything as a result, including, for a long period of time, my sense of being. Edit. Added the age difference between my ex and who she cheated with 31 years. Story 4. Wife cheated and is now pregnant with another man's child. My wife and I have been together for 3 years now. We have a son who is 20 months old. Our relationship has always been excellent. We're best friends. This year has been super tough for us. I lost 2 jobs and failed to move to Miami for work. Currently, we live in Dallas. I started noticing something weird around mid-September when she spent more time on her phone than usual. I approached her and asked what was going on because she started isolating herself from our child and me. She apologized and said she'd spend less time on her phone. Forward to October, one random day we were driving in the car and having a conversation. She told me she was no longer attracted to me and we should separate. We talked about it, and I was able to convince her that we could work on the things she needed help with, scheduling date nights, movie nights, etc. Things to make her feel wanted and special. After a few weeks, things were going all right. I did notice she was spending more time at work meetings in the afternoons and was isolating herself more at home. The phone situation became an issue again. Things were still decent though. Around November 14, one late night, we sat down and had a conversation about her not being attracted to me still. Granted, I take very good care of myself, go to the gym every day, eat good foods, etc. She's beautiful, a bit overweight, but we were working on it. The night of the fight, she told me she cheated on me with a coworker and was blackout drunk. This made me very upset, so I told her she should leave my house. Fast forward a few days later, I had a chance to cool down and sit down to discuss everything with her. She told me the whole story was made up and nothing happened. She just felt like I was controlling her life and needed to leave. Yes, I'm hard on people. She told me her goals and I would always hold her accountable whenever she wasn't achieving them. Never told her she couldn't go places, etc. During that meeting, she said she was attracted to another man, it was just a friendship, and was sure he didn't like her. She also mentioned that she didn't want to get back together yet because she wanted to work on herself and her self-discipline. I was sad about the attraction to another man, but understood and continued to support her. We wrote a contract and signed it. It stated we're going to work on our relationship, date night, etc., and be 100% exclusive to each other. I promised to call her every day while she was living at a friend's house, a woman she worked with, and ask her about her day, talk, etc. This went very well for a while, until one date night. We were at a local sports bar talking and having a few beers. She tells me she slept with a guy she met at a bar a few days after we split and might be pregnant. This made me very upset, so I called off the rest of the night. We traveled in the same car, so she drove me home. On the way I started probing and asking questions of what exactly she was thinking. She has a family. She told me it was a lie to make me hate her so I would move on. We continued seeing each other often in the following weeks, hanging out, spending time with our kiddo together, etc. I approached her during one of our scheduled weekly relationship meetings where we discussed how everything was going with a new apartment we could move into. She initially was hesitant to move forward, but later agreed. Things went well for a few weeks after this. Moving forward to the week of Christmas, we went to our local phone store to upgrade our plans. She handed me her phone so I could help her back everything up. Now, I'm not typically a snooper, but I decided to go through her notifications. I saw that she was on Facebook dating, talking to a ton of different guys she matched with. I was pissed, so we walked back to the car and I confronted her after storming out of the phone store. I asked, "Why are you seeking attention from other guys when you have one who wants to give you everything?" She was stunned and very upset. She told me she was very sorry and wanted to be committed to me. After a long conversation, she agreed to delete FB dating and showed me. A few days later, we are hanging out, and the guy she told me is just a friend who she likes and calls her. I confront her about it, and she tells me that he's probably calling to wish me a happy Xmas, and they haven't talked in about a week. I stupidly believed her and moved forward. Fast forward a few days, on December 28th, I looked at the call logs from her number on our online portal and saw that she and this guy talk every day. I confronted her and said, "I know you and Jesse speak every day. If we're going to make this relationship work, we need to be committed to one another." She agreed to completely break it off with him after admitting it was more than friendship and they've kissed, etc. But no sex. During the following weekend, we packed up to visit her parents 5 hours away. During this time, she's distant and doesn't show affection much. We technically are together, but something felt off. The whole weekend was weird. During our drive home, she tells me that she doesn't want to be with me because she cannot stand me. She feels I'm a narcissist and cannot get along with people, none of which are remotely true. After probing and asking questions, she tells me this guy and her have slept together and she might be pregnant. We stop at a local Walmart to buy a pregnancy test and it comes back positive. I know I'm dumb. I told her that I'd support her. We have a family together. I agreed to counseling and working on things, but she has so much grief, guilt, and stuff going on right now. Currently, we are separated and still in shock of everything that's transpired. What are your thoughts? Am I right for not wanting to split my family up?